Through the pages of the Bible, God has revealed a diet plan over 3,000 years ago. It's right there in the pages of the Bible. Our exploration begins with Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14, where we find the divine dietary commandments given to Moses. The consumption of certain animals was designated as clean or unclean. Now you might be thinking, why would a good God care what we eat? Well, these weren't just food regulations. They were a way of life, a code of conduct. So what were the guidelines? Let's dive into the specifics. When it came to land animals, they had to meet two criteria to be considered clean. They must chew their cud and have split hooves. This included cattle, sheep, and goats, but animals like pigs and rabbits, despite having split hooves, were deemed unclean because they didn't chew cud. And animals like horses and camels were out too, because they didn't have split hooves. As for sea creatures, they needed to have both fins and scales to be classified as clean. This meant fish were okay, but shellfish and other creatures of the sea that didn't have fins and scales were forbidden. Additionally, birds of prey and scavengers like vultures and eagles were also prohibited. But there was more. The Bible explicitly forbids the eating of blood. In Genesis 9:3-4 and Leviticus 7:26, it says, "The life of the flesh is in the blood." This wasn't just a dietary restriction, it was a recognition of the sacredness of life. Furthermore, the Bible prohibits the consumption of meat and dairy together. The verse, "Thou shalt not boil a kid in its mother's milk," while seemingly obscure, is actually a prohibition of an ancient pagan practice. By keeping these practices in mind, we can better understand the cultural context of the biblical times. Now, some might argue that these laws are no longer binding since Jesus fulfilled the law. However, these dietary laws continue to hold significance for Jewish people around the world who follow kosher practices today. It's also important to address a common question. What about the book called The Secret Teachings of Moses, which seems to contradict some of these dietary rules? To maintain the integrity of this exploration, we will stick to the canonical Hebrew scriptures and the Holy Bible for our understanding of the divine diet. Other texts, while perhaps containing valuable insights, are not part of the divinely inspired word that we are focusing on here. So the divine diet outlined in the Bible, though seemingly a set of rigid rules, was actually a holistic way of life for the people of Israel. These weren't health laws, but holiness laws. The overarching purpose was to set God's people apart and keep them conscious of their covenant with Him. As Leviticus 11:44 states, "Be ye holy, for I am holy." Thanks for joining me on this journey through the fascinating world of biblical dietary laws.